So to get started, I would love to take this opportunity to introduce our speakers. I would like to welcome Emily Burgess, who is a business developer on the employment relations team within cooperative and experiential education. Her work focuses on developing connections with new employers and associations for co-op opportunities. And we are thrilled to welcome Pradeepan Yoga, who is the co-founder and CEO of Remitby. Remitby is a simple, quick, and easy online system for money transferring and is an employer perspective for us. Julie Hartley, who is also an account manager on the employment relations team within cooperative and experiential education, and who works with our Waterloo co-op employers to seek emerging talent. So without further ado, I would love to pass it over to Emily.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vicki, for that introduction. We're really excited today to be talking about fostering talent as a startup or small business. I focus specifically on working with small businesses and startups to help them with their hiring process. And following on this theme of engagement today, we're going to share some best practices that our small business and startup employers have undertaken to help them engage and achieve recruiting success. Today, we'll be talking a little bit about innovation at Waterloo, how to engage your hires, and then, of course, our employer spotlight with Remitby. Innovation is a core pillar at Waterloo. We're training the next generation of talent and entrepreneurs. By hiring students in your small business or startup, you're fostering this next generation of talent and company founders. We understand that things work a little bit differently as a small business or startup. It can feel really challenging at times to invest the time in hiring and engaging your student, and we want to help make that a little bit easier. We've partnered with entrepreneur hubs, Chamber of Commerce, and small business centers across the country so that we can be well-versed in your needs as startups and small businesses and be a better resource to help support you in finding top talent. In 2019, 12% of our employers were employed by a small business or startup. To put this into perspective, we have 25,000 students enrolled in co-op. So in 1 year alone, over 3,000 students were working in this unique environment. You can play such a crucial role in a student's career development, and we want to help you feel successful in your recruitment and hiring. When it comes to engaging the workforce as a small business or startup, it's important to think of this in every stage of the hiring process, starting off with recruitment. A student's first exposure to your company is probably through the job description. You might not have that reputation that larger companies are coming into with the process. And this isn't a bad thing. This provides you with the opportunity to shape a student's experience with your company right from day one. As shared in the previous WorkLearn event in February, it's important to include company values and culture in your job postings. We know that Gen Z wants to work for companies that share their values, and starting this right in the recruitment phase can help a student feel connected to your organization. Be transparent with students about the work environment, the salary, and the day-to-day experience. Things move a mile a minute in a startup and small business, and students will have exposure to so many different areas of the company. Start to build this momentum and excitement with your students when talking about what it's like to work in your company. And where possible, hold video interviews to help create that face-to-face connection with students. Moving on to the onboarding process, a number of great tips were shared in the keynote, and onboarding is so important to starting up for success. Many small companies have shared how challenging it can feel to properly onboard a student. It doesn't have to be. I want to share with you some simple tips and tricks to create a great onboarding program for your students that's not going to take a ton of time or derail you from the millions of things you need to do every day. Take the time to prepare for your students' first week before they started. You'll see the return for this time investment. A simple welcome message goes a really long way. Send an email introducing your student to the rest of the team to help them feel connected. Hold an online event to help students connect with their colleagues. With so many work terms happening remotely, you can't just bump into somebody at the office and learn about your colleagues. As a manager, create this space for students to learn right from their first week of the people that they're working with and to help see where there's opportunities for connection. Carve out time for goal setting, looking at goal setting for longer term and shorter term, both personal and career development goals. Listen to the goals that your students want to achieve and find ways to incorporate this into the work term. For example, a student's goal could be gaining more experience with presentations. This might not be a core aspect of their role, but is there an opportunity where they could chair a meeting or create a presentation on the work they're doing? How can you build these things into the daily work to help the student feel engaged and that they're having a meaningful work experience? As shared in the keynote, share the impact of the work. Often in a small business and startup, it's a small but mighty team, and one other person in the organization can make a huge difference. Every hire counts. Share with the student how their work will be used and how it impacts the company. Sometimes the smallest task can have a huge impact and start a company off for success. Include the student in that bigger picture so they can understand why the tasks that they're doing matter. When it comes to midterm, as heard in the previous session, mid and end of term evaluation are so important. As part of this midterm review, revisit the goal setting activity you did in the first week of the student's term. Make sure that the student feels like they're on track to meet some of their goals, and also revisit the goals that you have set for the student and make sure that the work is being completed. This is a great way to have a transparent conversation and check in. You still have 2 full months of incredible work that can be done, and so much can happen in that amount of time. Check in with your student to make sure things are going well and set up for success. Ask your student what areas of the business where they would like to learn a little bit more. Perhaps there's an opportunity to set up mentorship opportunities. This could look like a 2-hour job shadow of another area of the company, or perhaps they're looking to learn a bit more about someone's career path. See if there's opportunities to connect them with other members in the organization to feel included. It's incredible some of the suggestions that students will bring forward and areas where they think they can make a big impact, whether that comes to workplace wellness or improving processes. Listen to your students, ask, and engage. When it comes to the end of the term, have your students help with hiring and training the next student. Include the student in the interview process for the replacement. They know the job better than anybody and can provide invaluable insights to students that are considering the role to help them truly understand what it means to work for your company and complete this job. Another great tool is to have a student create a training or onboarding guide. This helps reduce some of the training that you need to invest by having your student create a manual that the incoming student can follow through and understand a bit better the processes, the company, and the types of things they'll be completing. Of course, provide an end of term review to the student and leave a positive lasting impression. Just because the student's work term is complete doesn't mean that's the end of your relationship with the student. Engage with them beyond the work term. Ensure you're connecting with them on LinkedIn and following their career journey. Co-op students can be an incredible brand ambassador for employers moving forward. A peer-to-peer recommendation about working for a company can speak volumes. A co-op student that feels they have an engaged and successful work term is much more likely to share with their peers about how great it is to work at that company and recommend it to others. They can help you in your recruiting future highly engaged students to be a great difference maker in your organization. And of course, never forget that hiring co-op students is a great way to build your long-term talent pipeline. Hire a student early on in their co-op journey. They'll work for a few other companies on co-op terms, and they might be the perfect full-time hire for you upon graduation. Having a successful work term can actually help you immensely in the future. I want to quickly revisit the remote work onboarding tactics that was shared in the keynote session. There's a couple aspects here where small businesses and startups are currently not engaging in that I think can make a big difference in a student's term without a huge time investment. The first of these is a discussion with their managers about the student's goal. I would love to see this 60% jump up to 80 because this is something that an hour-long conversation can set the stage for a successful work term and an engaged student right from their very first week. The second of these that we talked briefly about was providing that opportunity to connect with fellow employees. Whether you're managing a co-op student remotely and this looks like a 15-minute Zoom call, or if this is an in-person activity, socially distanced, to connect with employees. Help students feel connected to the work and the people in the organization simply by creating that platform for them to connect with others. The final aspect here that I think can be a huge impact for small businesses and startups, looking that only 36% of people have that coworker as a mentor. Now, I know in some cases you might be a mighty team of one and there isn't the opportunity for that. But even if you have a small team of 5, there's other people in the organization that students can really learn and grow from. This could look like an hour-long coffee chat at some point throughout the term to talk about their career and their journey. Leverage the incredible people in your organization to help these students grow, engage, and have a really meaningful work term. At this time, I want to hand it over to Julie, who's going to introduce our Employer Spotlight to share from the peer-to-peer perspective his experience hiring co-op students.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you, Prathipan, for joining us today. I've had the pleasure of working with Prathipan for a little while now on their co-op program, and I can say that the students that come out of this program really indicate that it's a great collaborative environment with lots of learning opportunities, ways to challenge themselves, and we're really looking forward to hearing your perspectives on how to engage the students. As Vicky mentioned earlier, Remitby is an online money transfer organization. They are a small business in Canada, but have, I guess, transitioned a little bit out of the initial startup phase. So this gives us a great insight into how you've designed your program and made it work for you. So Prathipan, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your program.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Emily and Julie, for this opportunity. So let me begin by saying that this is a great opportunity for us to kind of identify talents for the future, not only for the purpose of co-op placements. We've been working with the University of Waterloo a little more than a year right now, and we've had hirings across the different programs, engineering, as well as arts and science. So far it's a great experience. And I'm one of those 3 co-founders. We've been in this business, money remittance business, for a very long time. In 2013 and 14, we've invested into into Remitby as a tech startup, and ever since, it's been a pretty exciting growth over year to year. And so we decided to do some co-op hirings at the beginning of last year, because one of the co-founders actually from Waterloo. And since we had that introduction, it was easy for us to kind of start this program and then, went through it. So this is pretty self-explanatory, and we can actually move to the next one. So our recruitment process, it's kind of, we have about 3 or 4 different steps, starting from doing job postings, and the job postings for each of the different positions. So we kind of we place like a standard job postings, and from there we kind of identify the students based on their previous co-op experience, some of the extracurricular activities, and then we kind of do the selections, and then we go through the interview process. So during the interview process, we look for 3 ingredients for us to kind of consider that particular students. And obviously, Julie knows that we pretty much get like hundreds of resumes, and out of which we kind of do about 10% of the interviews. And the first things that we look for, the attitude of the student, whether that the student is willing to learn, if that the student have a good listening skills, if they have done some kind of due diligence on us, right, before even attending the interview. That will give us an indication that the students is very serious about learning new skills and things like that. So once that process is completed, we kind of shortlist it, and then we kind of send them an assignment. So this assignment, depending on the kind of position that they are in, so this could be full stack development, iOS development, Android, or marketing, so on and so forth. We kind of give them, it's not a pretty full-blown things, but the purpose of these assignments to identify their potential, whether they are willing to kind of spend some time to do this. So based on that, we kind of give an evaluation, and so we kind of select the best, and then we give them an offer, and if they choose to work with us, and then we kind of take them into the process. So once they're being chosen or being selected and they accepted the position, then we give them a specific training program so that they need to kind of go through, and we reimburse this cost. It's online based, and so they would have to kind of, for each of those positions, we have like a bunch of online based training programs that we've identified. Sometimes we change them, and we provide these resources for them to kind of learn over the period of next 2.5, 3 months. And they would have to provide us the completion certificate by the time that they start the terms. And then we kind of do the orientation. During that orientation, we handhold with the TLs, and I personally talk to them, and we make sure that even before they start, they kind of prepare. They know what they are going to work on, the kind of products and the skills and things like that. Some of these training programs that we provide is much ahead than what they're learning at their school, and some of those things they can actually do this kind of push them to towards their advancement into the next stage. So once they come on board, and we kind of deploy them with the production team or marketing team, and we use Jira to assign them tasks, and we've got all kind of stuff like a stand-up meeting, reviews, individual calls, daily stand-up, sprint meets, and things like that. So the students are given the maximum exposure of how a professional environment would look like, and we are very serious about giving them the maximum learning opportunities to give them a meaningful learning experience, and then they just go through this process from the time that they start until end. And towards the end of the terms, we ask them to prepare a document that kind of have like a README kind of a document, which has about 2.5, 3 pages, that basically explains everything from who they are, what they did, what the outcome of it, the mistakes that they made, the recommendations for the next. So we kind of call this as our knowledge library. So in the future, we can kind of use this, and then we give the final ranking appropriately, from outstanding to all the way to this one. Even for the current students, we just kind of discussed about this yesterday, and for this we collected all the feedback from the TLs and different managers, and so we will be providing those feedback like next week. So this is pretty standard, but for us it's a fully tech company, so we can kind of build all these processes and trainings and things like that. But if then, let's say, a different companies, like whether you are in the hospitality industry or institutions or let's say construction company, whatever it is, you can always find what kind of process and the system involved in your company, and you can actually create a process for that. So you can always give them some kind of an assessment and see how they're doing it. You can kind of assess their attitude, and how willing they are willing to learn things, how committed they are, and whether they're interested in learn those kind of stuff. And if you spot and if you find the right students, and they can certainly make some meaningful contribution. At the same time, you can also give them an opportunity to learn things and get better at it.
Thank you so much, Prathipan. That was a really great overview of your process and your program. And you basically answered this first question: how do you engage students throughout the work term? I really love that you engage them right from the beginning, to say that if they're already engaged in researching your company when they apply, and being able to do those assignments well, then you already know at that point that how they're going to be when they're with you in the company. Now, question, thanks, is really how do you engage and work with students from a variety of academic programs? I know that RemitB has hired both arts and math students, and from different programs, and I'd like to hear a little bit about how you engage them.
Okay. That's quite simple. We've got multiple departments, everything from the engineering, treasury and payment, and also marketing department, and then HR and finance. So, and then we also have one other things which are legal and overseas the banking networks and stuff like that. So it's we kind of transition into a small company startup. Now we are kind of between the startup to the next unicorn because the trajectory of our growth. So we are growing, and there's so many people we've been added. So, but the way that we kind of keep this each department, and we have a TL, and then we kind of identify which are the positions that we want to fill, and then what we do, we kind of give them assignments and trainings and everything like that. Once they get onboarded, we kind of link them with each one of them. So in our the communication channels, we have like different department and scope, and we put them over there. Even before they start, they're kind of familiar with how we use our communication tools. And we also give them like a orientation documents that show them like step by step, like what they're supposed to do. For example, for the term that starts next week, one of the students that she's going to work on, the business analyst, we already kind of, gave her all the briefs, and we handhold with the current students and kind of show them like shadowing what exactly involved and things like that. So when she starts next week, she's already half familiar with the process. If you don't do those kind of steps, then what's going to happen? They will get lost, and then once they get lost at the beginning, it's very difficult for them kind of get on the track, because they will feel like inconfident, like they probably will feel that they won't be able to do this. So we do this in a very systematic and in a very an artistic way. So they feel very comfortable, and we put them with the appropriate TLs, and they explain everything that needs to happen. We have a good ticketing system that we assign them tasks and everything. And then we have different stand-ups, different meetings, different conversations. So everything kind of like, it's like right now the work from home, it's kind of like too much, like people are all over the place, but we kind of manage this. Since we are a tech company, it's easier for us to kind of manage all this in a very coordinated fashion. And if we don't have this kind of system, then it's extremely difficult, because you don't know where these people are, and it'll get really chaotic quite quickly. But since we have the system in place, it's quite easy for us to kind of manage it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And what you mentioned there about, the remote working actually bridges well into my next question for you is maybe if you can talk a little bit about the challenges that you face when hiring and engaging talent. And I'm sure that also includes hiring during COVID. Yes, if you can share some of those challenges and how you've dealt with them.
Yeah. So as I mentioned during our call last week, you had to be completely committed to this process. As an employer, you could not want to kind of fill in bodies, right? Because you just wanted to get some 10 co-operative students, and you hire them, and you don't give them a proper job, or you don't give them a proper training. It's really bad for them. It's bad for you. It's bad for everybody, right? So we are 100% committed to this process, and obviously, that I very closely work with you and your colleagues. Same thing that I have a couple of team members that they help me with the process. So we kind of go through this process one by one, and we make sure that we get the best students. As a result of that, so far the feedback is really great, and obviously that. And we also kind of create like best students. So like some of our students, and if you would hire them for any of these positions that they're talking about, they already have exposure with the real world experience, whether it's an engineering student, whether it's business analyst, finance, so on and so forth, because the kind of things that we work on is like a global operation, right? So we give them a maximum of the opportunity and the exposure. So within that 3.5-4 months, it's a fully packed events for them, so they get everything that they need to know. And remember that I shared with you one comment, like one student said that she actually learned a lot in this term than what she actually learned in previous 3 terms, right? And so it was kind of fascinating, because we mean it. We're totally committed, and that's how we want to do it.
So I hear that to be totally committed, I expect that one of the challenges is just making time as a manager to go over those steps with the students, and I appreciate you really emphasizing that. Now, because we only have 5 minutes left to our session, we're going to just bump over to the Q&A and maybe answer 1 or 2 of those. Now, let me just take a look. I want to see the Q&A. Is this from the early?
I'm happy to put in that piece if that's helpful.
Yes.
We have a question from Jacob, and he has indicated, how does one become an employer input to the U Waterloo co-op / hiring department? So I really think about it as perspective of being able to share his insights.
Is it a question to me, or
I'm going to ask Emily if she would be able to answer that one.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to chat on that. So if you're already hiring as an employer, your account manager is definitely the best person to start with. If you are new to co-op and you want to get involved, we have a team of business developers that would love to hear from you. We're actually holding a session tomorrow that walks through our hiring process as a small business or startup. So definitely reaching out to your service team. We're always looking to learn more about our employer's experience, but starting with that account manager would be your best point of contact.
Thank you, Emily. And we will be following up for everyone that joined us for this event with a follow-up email that will have contact information in it as well. Our next question would be for you, Prathipan. Do you feel it is harder or easier for small businesses to engage students?
Well, it depends. It doesn't really matter whether you are a startup or a bigger company or smaller organizations. If you have a process, that process that can work for you, then it's quite easier. So even though like we have a different moving components with our process, as I explained, right? So we've got like a different timeline, different written up processes and stuff like that. So we just have to apply those processes and it became easy. If you do this in a very random basis without any process, then it's extremely difficult and things could get chaotic. The way that I'm managing it, I actually work in the nighttime, the weekends, off hours, because I don't do this kind of, I call this as a non-productive admin work, okay? But I do this work in the weekends. That's when I review all this kind of stuff, right? During the daytime, I have to run my operations. So if you have a process, irrespective of size of your organization, you can run this quite easily and efficiently.
Wonderful.
If I can add to that as well, I think this is an area too where you can really lean on your support team. We have people on our staff that can help you with writing a job description. I know sometimes as a small business that can feel overwhelming, just to even navigate what type of interview questions should I be answering? How can I help onboard my students? Lean on the team of staff at Waterloo. We want to help you through each phase of the process, knowing that for every single company, this looks different, and we can help you with that too. So please lean on us if you ever have questions about that.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Prathipan. With only 2 minutes left, I think the last question here is a great one. And again, it would be for Prathipan. What do students like best about working at Remitby?
We give them a lot of autonomous in terms of how they want to make the decisions, and I explain this to them. And so we don't really kind of babysit them because we don't have resources for that. So we kind of, give them tickets, tell them, okay, we have a problem, get back to us. So we kind of give them that kind of freedoms and stuff like that. And they kind of liked it because we don't give them any kind of repeated tasks. And as I mentioned, if there's a task that does not involve any kind of learning things, then we don't actually hire any co-ops, right? So you give them some freedom and you give them clear instruction and you give them kind of tools that they needed and trainings and stuff like that. They would actually love it because this thing, many students actually personally, they have told me about, what the things that you like and you don't like about it. And this is one of the things that they actually like. And the second thing, we have a pretty open door policy. And the first term, we realized that not very many students kind of speak to us. They only listen to us, but they don't speak. But we kind of encourage them. Okay, you need to speak up. You need to tell us what's your perspective. Now we see that's kind of they're very friendly and they kind of share their ideas and stuff like that. We have a lot of like calls on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis. For example, we introduced the chess game. So every Friday at 4:30, everybody participate in that, and they love it. Sometimes we forget, and they actually remind us, "Are we going to have a game today?" Right? And then we had a final tournament like this Monday. I think 2 students won, and we're going to give them a prize. Things like that. So you have to be a bit of innovative and give them freedom and things like that. And it will be good, really good. So this is why you need to kind of pick the one that have a good attitude. All these qualities that I've been talking about. But if you get somebody, they don't have a good attitude, no matter what you're trying to do, it won't really work out because they will not be very receptive to your ideas. So this is why you need to kind of, spot them, the good one. And if you take them, then you can implement all these different ideas and plans.
Well, I think that sounds like a wonderful way to engage the students. And I must say that just you being part of this panel also shows you the value that you put on our students and the engagement. So I do know that we didn't get to all of the questions, but any questions that we didn't have a chance to answer, our team is happy to reach out and connect with you on. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Emily and Julie and Prathipan for joining us for this event and being able to provide your insights. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Vicky, for organizing this, and thank you for the opportunity. And if anyone needs any inputs or any help, feel free to get in touch with me. So we are here to help in any way we can.
Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.